All right, it is time for SKOL'ing with the Enemy. All right, welcome back to the Onebar and Lupagus show. It has been a very long time, but it is that time once again. It's that time of the year to SKOL with the Enemy. I'm Onebar with Lupagus and our special guest, Ryan from Packernet Podcast, ready to talk some Vikings, Packers. I am visibly excited.
Yeah, looks like you're horned up to me.
Hell yes. Ryan, appreciate you coming on. Anybody who's watched the show, Ryan is no stranger. He is our Packer rep.
Yeah, no, it's. I appreciate you guys bringing me on. I'm just ready to get started, man. I'm tired of this off-season nonsense. Let's get into some real football.
Absolutely.
Hell yeah, well said.
Talking about the most random things just so we can put out some content. Now we get to actually talk about real stuff.
I hope we're doing a top 10 list today because I have not had enough of those.
Yeah, right.
We're lazy, so we usually do like a top 3, maybe top 5 at most.
Yeah.
But be sure to check out Ryan Packernet Podcast. Hit him up on his podcast. He's also got a YouTube channel. Check him out. Good stuff. But let's just dive balls deep into this, and I'm not even going to waste time. I mean, let's just blow a load right off the bat. I mean, Vikings game. Put the Vikings game aside. I want to know your expectations for the Packers in 2022. Just how you're feeling going into the season right now.
I'm feeling fine. I know there's a lot of panic about Devontae left, and so it seems like every day the team gets worse somehow. It's the same team, but every day the Packers get worse and worse. I don't know exactly how that's happening, but and then the Vikings are going the exact opposite direction. Just from media expectations, it's like every day I wake up and I listen. It's like, I don't know, Packers suck, but the Vikings, dude, Super Bowl. It's like I don't know what's going on all of a sudden, but no, I think they'll be all right. I mean, it's hard to gauge. I don't know how big of a deal that's going to be, and now they're talking Lazard might be out, so nobody has any experience with our wide receivers right now, at least for week 1 if Lazard doesn't play. But I really think it'll be fine. He's got plenty of guys to distribute the ball to. You got the wide receivers, you got the tight ends. We got 2 really good receiving running backs. I don't think that'll be a big deal. And then on the other side, there's all the hype about the Packers defense, which, on paper, yeah, I'm excited about it. I'm pumped, but I'm really getting tired of talking about on paper with this defense, and they never quite live up to the hype. So I want to see it first, but we got to see, man. I don't know. I've talked about everything from every angle, and I'm just ready to see it at this point.
Hell yeah. So I got to ask you, are you a fan of these week 1 divisional matchups, getting the Vikings right off the bat, or would you rather see it down the road a little bit till these teams kind of find their identity for the year?
No, the Packers got blown out last year, week 1, like 38-3. They weren't ready. They didn't have their footing. The Saints just embarrassed them. And, the Saints ended up missing the playoffs, and the Packers went and got 13 wins. So, that wasn't a representation of the 2 teams. And I think it's stupid. I think we should be, we should be playing the Jets. You should be playing the Giants. I mean, just pick some stupid game. Let us get one out of the way. I mean, if you want us to play the Bears, I'll take it. I'll take the Bears.
Yeah,
but
right.
I don't want to play the Vikings week 1. That's stupid.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same boat as you are there.
It's the best part about Packernet Podcast. He does not sugarcoat things. People say things as it is. I listened to your, I don't know how recent an episode it was, but you were just going through every team if they got better or worse.
Yeah.
And it's just hilarious. I mean, you're very clear. You do not, DJ Wanham sucks. It was hilarious. But it's funny you mentioned the hype for the Vikings because it is. I mean, it's not like, I wouldn't say I'm completely buying into it. It's just funny that, even this morning, Kyle Brown on NFL Network saying Kirk Cousins will get the MVP. I mean, right. it gets me and Lupagus very excited. It's fantastic. Mm-hmm. But yes, the season needs to start.
Yeah, he's having fun with the Vikings. Every time I go on Twitter, I see him doing something in a Vikings jersey, a Vikings hat. The Vikings better win the Super Bowl, or he's going to look like a complete idiot. That's all I know.
Injury-wise, I know there's some big names. There's guys that are probably playing, but how are you guys looking injury?
It's really hard to say. That this is the time of year, too, where the teams start being real coy. So, it used to be just a week ago, he's going to play, he's not going to play or whatever. It was very clear. But now, you ask him a simple question and the coach is just kind of, he won't answer anything. So Lazard kind of might play. We're not really sure about that. That's a great picture. Christian Watson is a big question mark. And then the 2 tackles are the big ones, too, with David Bakhtiari and Elton Jenkins. David Bakhtiari has been practicing. So I think he's going to play, but again, the coach refuses to give any hints as far as whether they will or won't. Elton Jenkins, I'm leaning toward not. I don't think he's practicing right now. So if I had to guess, I would say Bakhtiari and Christian Watson will play. Lazard and Elton Jenkins will not, but that's just a complete guess at this point.
How long was I frozen for?
Most of it. I was trying to talk for as long as I could to bring you.
I got the big boys out of the way anyway. That's what I wanted to know. So that offensive line, if those two guys are out, I mean, how horrible is that going to be?
Well, it's as horrible as it was last year because we didn't really have those guys last year. So, I mean, it's not ideal. You go from, in my opinion, one of the better tackle duos in football to Yosh Nijman and Royce Newman, which, I mean, Yosh is great for an undrafted free agent as far as that goes, but he's a backup. And Royce is probably a backup that we're calling a starter, but, you know, I'll try to be – he's a second-year guy. He might take a leap. I don't know. So it's not great. It's not ideal, especially when – I think all Packer fans' biggest fear right now, aside from just losing, is Za'Darius doing something, you know, getting a sack, pulling up his stupid jersey with something written on his shirt or whatever.
Oh, you loved that when he did that.
He loved doing that.
He was a Packer. You loved it.
Oh, yeah, we ate it up, but I know it's coming. And I just, if nothing else, just give me Bakhtiari. Just block him. I don't care if Daniil Hunter has 3 sacks. I just don't want Za'Darius to get any. That's all I'm saying.
What about Shannon Sullivan? Maybe 3-4 interceptions?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, no. That's whatever.
All right, we've already been talking about the Vikings and the buzz that's surrounding that team. Are you buying in the Viking buzz at all? Do you think they're a team that's actually going to contend or not?
I mean, it's hard to say. I'm worried about the Vikings. I've said going into this, it's 50-50 in my mind who wins this game. It all just comes down to the coaching, though. That's the biggest thing. Like I said, I don't know if you listened to it or not, but when I went through, you know, the Bears, it's a completely new roster. The Lions have done a couple things. The Vikings, as far as I can tell, are largely the same team, and the changes that have been made are not massive, like they massively upgraded this or massively downgraded, especially when you talk about the main core pieces. It's the same guys. That was a funny thing about Brandt when he was talking. You know, he went off on a rant about, you better watch out, the Vikings. They got Cousins. And he listed all the same guys that have been there for the last 2-3 years, and it's like, that doesn't change anything. So, I mean, it just comes down to the coaching staff. If they make a major impact, similar to what LaFleur did in Green Bay, then yeah, I think you guys are a major threat. But if all that's kind of fake and it's more or less the same, you know, maybe a little better here or there, then, you know, then I second in the division, but I don't know that it changes all that much.
All right, you already mentioned Davante Adams. I mean, it's kind of a mystery on how big of an impact that's going to be, but how worried are you with this receiving core? And side piece to that is, are you more scared losing Adams or when you lost Jordy Nelson?
Probably Jordy, just because the more that it happens, you know, every single time, going as far back as I can, when somebody leaves, you just assume it's all over. You know, this is the worst thing ever. And then you just pick up the pieces and you keep going. It's not that big of a deal. So, you know, I'm trying not to doom and gloom it too much. There is a positive side to it, and I don't want to sound like, you know, being overly biased Packer fan, trying to make it sound like it's great that Davante left, but, you know, he did overly rely on Davante Adams, and I think you can look at that playoff game and see it, where when things start going south, all he wants to do is throw to triple cover Davante rather than the wide open guy 10 yards down the field. He doesn't have that anymore, so he's going to be forced to just stay in the system, find the open guy. You know, if these guys can't separate, if they are running wrong routes because they're rookies, it's going to be a problem. But that's the one thing I'm looking forward to, is just run it as Matt LaFleur is calling it, rather than, oh crap, I'm scared somebody's coming, just throw it up to Davante, because that stuff was just a complete disaster. That's when you knew the Packers were going to lose. When he just started heaving it to Davante, the game was over.
And that's somebody who's coming to have a little message on his belly when he hits Aaron Rodgers.
I didn't even think about him doing that, and I guess now deep down that you mentioned, I really hope that does.
Oh, it's 100% going to happen. I would bet $100 he will not have a sack. He doesn't care about a single thing. He will get 1 sack so he can show us what he wrote on it. He's going to say like team captain or something stupid on his shirt.
No, that's really lame. I hope he doesn't do it then. Yeah. That's what he's going to write. All right, so let's stick on the receiver topic. So who's going to be the go-to receiver this week? Lazard sounds like he's maybe not going to play it. Is that person going to be the same person who becomes the go-to receiver down the road here for the Packers?
Yeah, I mean, they're pretty heavy on Lazard is going to be the main guy. If he doesn't play, it's going to be Sammy Watkins. Rodgers has been real excited about him and what a great job he's done in camp and his understanding of the offense and everything else. But I don't think there's that big of a separation. in talent between Lazard and Watkins and even Dobbs from what we've seen in camp. We don't know what Christian Watson can do because we haven't seen him yet, but I think when it's all said and done, they're going to be relatively equal in talent, which I'm fine with that. We don't have that number one guy. We do in name. It's going to be Lazard, but I think from week to week, 1 week it'll be Sammy that has a bigger day. The next week it'll be Dobbs that has a bigger day, and I kind of like that. You don't know what's coming. Now, again, they still have to perform, but I think that's a positive for the offense. Is you can't just say if we take away Devontae, we win. Now it's kind of wide open.
So weak link wise, I mean, who's the Packers version of Garrett Bradbury? Who's the guy that just causes you a headache, or maybe even just a position?
Well, I mean, wide receiver, like we talked about. I mean, I don't know how that's going to pan out, but we don't really have a top guy. And if you got a good DB group, that could be a serious problem. It's not really the defense, although we got to see about Darnell Savage. He didn't have a good year last year. He could end up being a weak spot. Otherwise, it's probably got to be along the offensive line somewhere, especially if the two tackles are not in. I'm kind of looking over at that right side of the line, probably going to be Jake Hansen at right guard and then Royce Newman at right tackle. That right side, which I'm assuming is Daniil's side, is going to be probably pretty weak.
I like it. I like those two guys you named.
Jake Hansen. Sounds like a
I didn't know. I didn't know. He lives down the street from me.
Sounds like a Viking. Yeah, exactly.
We haven't even talked defense, but I mean, looking at your defense again on paper,
right?
I mean, it looks pretty damn good. I mean, are you expecting a leap or just kind of the same old, same old? I mean, you got like 6 first-rounders starting on that defense,
and that's the thing. Like it's they need to be. I don't want to say top 5, but enough is enough with it because even when they had Za'Darius and all this stuff on paper, they were a top 10 defense, and they give you a top 15 or top 15 production, and it's just it's aggravating. They still have a terrible run defense or whatever the case is. Like you said, from end to end, from defensive tackle, edge, linebacker, corner, safety, there isn't a weakness on the defense. They have to do something. I mean, if you're not going to be top 5, you better be top 6 because it's just there's too much talent here to have another year of. Well, they can't stop the run, or well, they're kind of here. They give up this big 40-point, banger in week 1 or something stupid. That needs to be the strength of the team. Like you said, there's so much investment, so many first-round picks, so many free agents that we go out and get. It has to be a top defense in the NFL.
Absolutely. All right. So, who's a sneaky player in the Packers that could surprise this week against the Vikings?
Ooh, it's possible that it could be Romeo Dobbs, just because Lazard being out, he's going to be probably in his spot, and he has drop issues. He does, but if he's open, which has been his whole thing, is he just gets open, he's going to get the ball. So that would be somebody to keep an eye on if Lazard doesn't play. If he does, then Dobbs probably won't get on the field very much. Otherwise, I mean, I'll just go with Quay Walker, I guess, just because he's an unknown commodity, and I just think he's in such an easy situation. That's one of the benefits of this. When you've got Kenny and those guys in front of you, and you got the edge rushers over there, and you got the DBs behind you, and you got Devondre Campbell next to you, you're basically the number 2 guy. I mean, he's a super talented, super athletic, super intelligent linebacker that doesn't have a lot to do. I mean, everybody's going to keep him clean, and the defensive coordinator makes it very simple for the linebackers. So I think he's going to shine, not because he's, a first-round pick or Goot's a genius or anything, but just because he's in such a prime situation to just very easily walk into being a top linebacker.
And that was one issue with the Mike Zimmer era. Rookies always tend to have breakout games against the Vikings. So we'll see if that changes under Kevin O'Connell. I sure hope it does.
Well, speaking of rookies, biggest impact, which new face for the Packers, whether it's free agency or a draft, is going to give Vikings fans some heartburn over the next couple of years? Who's your best addition?
Couple of years, other than the guys I mentioned. I mean, Christian Watson, somebody to keep an eye on just because he was the higher pick. Haven't seen him at all, but I know Aaron Rodgers, and obviously he got trashed for the way he talked about the receivers. So Rodgers is not the kind of guy that's going to blow smoke if it's not real. He had a lot of high praise for Watson. I thought the funny thing he mentioned about him is he talked about how big and tall and fast he is and says, we haven't had a guy like that in years. MVS just left. MVS was like exact same height, weight, speed. But Rodgers is looking at him saying, we have not had a guy like this. So whatever it was, they might have had the same 40 or whatever, but MVS did not have the same kind of stride length, as he said, that Watson has. So fingers crossed, at least from my perspective, that ends up being a pretty big hit for us.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned Aaron Rodgers, because I think I've asked you about this before, but I want to ask you again, because you see him come to camp dressed as the Wish.com version of Nick Cage from Con Air, throwing his bag. He's out there on any radio show he can get on, spouting his views on every single topic. When is enough with this guy? I know he's so damn good. You guys are going to give him a long leash, but there's got to be a point where you're like, God, this guy is just embarrassing. I
think it just depends what your position on his positions are. I mean, if you agree with him, then you never want him to stop talking. If you disagree with him, then you hate the guy. But I don't know, man. It's weird, but it's also not just for Aaron Rodgers. I think it's kind of nice. A lot of these guys, especially with social media, they're saying whatever now. It used to be not very long ago, 5-10 years ago, all you ever saw was these guys at the podium, and their biggest goal was to tell you as little as possible. They didn't like you. They didn't like the fans. They didn't want you to know anything. Get out of my life. Now it's just, they seem so open. I mean, they're on these piddly little podcasts, and they're on social media saying whatever they want. So yeah, Rodgers probably overshares a little bit. I don't need to know about his ayahuasca dreams, and I was unfortunately found out way too much about his bodily functions, either with ayahuasca or this other thing he's doing, panchakarma or whatever. But in general, I like, because that's when you find out the most. I mean, you got to sort through 45 minutes of nonsense that I don't want to hear, but eventually you hear about, Christian Watson's stride length or whatever. So I enjoy it. I like that the main guy on our team is very open and tells us a lot of information. I like that.
I'm going to say an unpopular take with Vikings fans, but I've kind of actually enjoyed his interviews over the last year. So it's like he just does not give a shit. He's just at the point where he just says whatever he wants. I mean, agree with it or not, it's actually kind of funny. And the fact that he shows up like Con Air, it's like, this guy's lost.
It was so weird. Well, I was getting there, but then I went back. I mean, when he was yelling at Bears fans, tell him that he owns them, I actually like that. But now, I don't know. I'm taking a step back again.
I'll give you one right back, because Packer fans hate it when I say that I actually like your guy's horn. It's everybody says it's the worst thing in the world. Every time I hear it, I'm like, dude, that's pretty hardcore, man. I'm sorry. If that was our thing, I'd be like, that's it, like gives you I don't know. I think it's cool. I know I'm not supposed to like it. I'm supposed to hate it, but I actually think it's pretty hardcore. You guys got a cool thing there.
You just wait. This Sunday in your living room, you're going to start doing the SKOL chant.
I will not do that. Good. The horn is ominous, but no, it's I'm never doing that.
All right.
Once again, we're joined with Ryan from Packernet Podcast. Check him out. Final. Not so much a score prediction, but how do you see things shaking on Sunday?
Oh, it's so weird that I feel like the key to this is the Vikings offense against the Packers defense. That seems so wrong. It should be the Packers offense against the Vikings defense. It's week 1, man. If you told me the Vikings offense went off and the Packers defense couldn't do anything and it was just like the Saints all over again, I'd believe it. If you told me that the Packers kind of walked all over the Vikings, I'd believe it. I'll say that it's anticlimactic and it's something like 24-27. I'll say Packers, because I think on paper, in my opinion, they're slightly better. But in Minnesota, who knows? I think it'll be close, and I think it'll be a boring score. That's what I think.
I hope it's not close. I hope it's one way or the other. I don't need any. I don't need any anxiety on Sunday. I just nice and easy.
The only thing I'm worried about is the narrative afterward. Because there's going to be an overreaction. If you guys win by 40. I'm going to have to hear at least for another week about how, they failed him and there's no wide receivers and the Packers are guard. And then I got to hear about the Vikings are going to win the Super Bowl. I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to deal with that garbage. So just keep it close, and then everyone will just have to keep guessing.
Win.
Hell yeah.
All right, there you have it. Ryan, Packernet Podcast. As always, appreciate you hopping on. If he is so willing, he'll be back once again this year for the next SKOL'ing with the Enemy. But Sunday should be a fantastic game. Can't wait to see how it pans out.
Excited.
Hell yeah.
All right, thanks, man.
Yeah, for sure.